So recently, the FDA did grant emergency use approval for the distribution of hydroxychloroquine to hospitals, but then as of Monday, they revoked that approval. How do you think this has affected the credibility of the FDA to you as a healthcare professional and then to just the general public when they see this news?
I knew this would be a challenging one, so I kind of thought about it. And it's a very challenging spot to be in, being the FDA. We have patients, when they first did the emergency use authorization, it was very early. We had a lot of patients dying, and you're telling healthcare professionals that the best option is supportive care. It's really hard to not want to do something more for patients. So I think it was hard for anyone to be okay with the fact that we have nothing to treat these patients. And so this was the first thing that kind of came out as this is something that might work. So I think people kind of panicked, and that's really where all that came from. But just because there's data saying you should do something, I think it's always reasonable to think about it and decide for yourself. That's why a lot of our decisions on these agents for COVID-19 have been collaborative decisions. So I make sure the providers for any of these agents, are having the discussion with other providers involved in the care. So we have our primary team, our infectious disease consults, our pulmonologists, then the patient or caregiver. So that way you kind of get everyone's feelings and thoughts about it. And there's not one person making a unanimous decision about the care. So I think that's adding the FDA in there. It's hard to, the FDA says it, I'm going to do it kind of thing. It's hard to not follow what the Food and Drug Administration is saying. But you can look at other organizations, so like the National Institutes of Health and the NIH and Infectious Diseases Society of America, or IDSA. So looking at other organizations, you can see what they say. They take into account the FDA's release, but then they also said shortly after that in their guidelines that they didn't recommend hydroxychloroquine or chloroquine for use unless they were using it in a clinical trial. So trying to get some more of that data so maybe we can justify the use of this in patients.